Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this third and final virtual open house of 2021 for St. Andrew's School. I'm going to just take a moment to let everyone file in from the waiting room before we get started. So we'll have just a moment. Great. Hi, everyone, and wherever you may be, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Heather Daly, and I am the Dean of Admission and Financial Aid at St. Andrew's School. I'm really excited that you've taken some time out of your day at what we know is a particularly busy time of year. Weekend time is always precious, and then when we think about all of the things that happen at the end of the year with various holidays and commitments, we just really appreciate the fact that you've chosen to spend a little bit of your time with us here, at least virtually. I'm really pleased to be joined by some of my colleagues and some amazing students here at St. Andrews, and in just a moment, they're going to have the opportunity to introduce themselves to you. But in the meantime, I just wanted to be able to share a few words about St. Andrews. We are a co-ed Episcopal boarding school of 315 students, 100% boarding, located in Middletown, Delaware. And if you've come to learn anything about St. Andrews, I think that there are several things about us that are fairly distinctive and make this community an incredible place to be. First and foremost, I think, is the fact that we are all residential. So all of our students live on campus and take part in residential life, and almost all of our faculty members do. We don't have day students who head home in the evenings, and I think the fact that we are all here in the evenings, on the weekends, committed to life, living in this residential community is something that makes it an incredibly close-knit and special place to be. I think as well, one of the things that I love about St. Andrews is the incredible academic program that we have, a top-notch program, rigor, and the opportunity to think deeply about intellectual pursuits. And yet at the same time, I think that's coupled with a community in which students really care about each other, and there are deep relationships that are formed. And so the idea that we would have this community that values intellectual pursuits doesn't mean that there can't be kindness as well. And that's something that I think is apparent to anyone who comes to St. Andrews and spends time with us. Finally, I think one of the things that is exceptionally important to know about St. Andrews, and I think has really fostered the community right from the very beginning, is the way in which we were founded by a gentleman by the name of Felix DuPont, who really wanted to bring a New England boarding school experience to Delaware. And in doing so, he really wanted this to be an education that was accessible to students from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think throughout the course of our 93-year history, we have always met the full demonstrated need of all of our accepted students. And so that makes for a pretty special place, I think. So I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful individuals who have joined me. I think we're actually going to start it off with Gretchen Hurt. What I'll ask families to do, people will have the opportunity to speak for a little bit. If you have questions that you'd like answered, please feel free to put those in the chat or in the Q&A.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm happy to be here with students and colleagues and talk to you about this great and special place that we all love, St. Andrews. I'm the Dean of Teaching and Learning at St. Andrews, which means I'm working with faculty members and departments to ensure the best possible, most engaging academic program we can provide. And that's really exciting work. I'm continually inspired just by the initiatives, the growth, and the excitement going on in all areas of the academic program. I also teach English and get to work with students closely in my own classes. And that honestly is the very best part of my day, being in the room with just such bright and open-minded and positive students who want to be here and who really just bring it every day in the classroom. So that's a little bit about what I do. I'm also, like many teachers here, I'm an advisor and work closely with a group of students one-on-one. And I have also been a coach and a dorm parent and seen the full life of the school in the course of my years here. I would say my favorite aspect of St. Andrews is definitely our school spirit. I think it's unique. We show up and we do everything together. We really are a all in community. I'm thinking most recently of our soccer team's run in the state tournament. Jake is smiling. So exciting. Every game, we all loaded onto buses, put on our red and black, and showed up for each other. We were there, we were loud, and other schools didn't quite know what to make of us. But I saw it again last night. We had an art gallery opening. The jazz band was playing. Everybody came. We all had hot chocolate. We packed into the gallery. And we were all there for everything. That's the thing I love the best about this place. I'll stop there and let some other people talk. Thanks for joining us.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Jake. I'm a senior here at St. Andrews. I'm from New York. I grew up on the Lower East and Lower West Side. And my favorite part of SAS is probably the residential life. Coming from New York, I didn't really know what to expect about boarding school. I'm a first generation student, but I've met kids from all over the globe, all throughout the United States. And I've made some of the closest relationships I've ever had. And I think there's just something special. Again, Ms. Daly alluded to that 100% of our students are boarding. And so when you have that sort of commitment and encouragement to all day, every day, be a part of this community and foster a culture here at St. Andrews, there's just a certain love and appreciation that all students have for each other. And I think that the community life definitely sets itself apart from any other boarding school that I looked at. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phineas Hunt. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. At St. Andrews, I'm one of the co-heads of Onyx, which is the Black male affinity groups. I'm a peer counselor, and in this fall, I was a captain of the football team. And one of my favorite aspects of St. Andrews is probably just the campus. It really is probably one of the prettiest places in Delaware. Especially in the spring and in the fall once the leaves are changing. But yeah, it's really great to be here and just be surrounded by just the beauty of St. Andrews. But yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Sanchez. I am not a student. I am a teacher at St. Andrews. This is my 5th year working at St. Andrews. I work as one of the 2 third form co-deans at the school. And basically what that means is I help to overlook and oversee a lot of the cultural and academic elements of the third form students, our youngest students at St. Andrews that are transitioning to the school and oftentimes see tremendous growth and also face tremendous challenges along the way, as anyone would expect. And I also work as a third form dorm parent. So I work in the residential component of the school on dorm on the Fleming corridor. I work actually very closely with Jake Kelly and Phineas on dorm, and I love working with them. Shout out to them. I also teach physics at this school. It's largely a sophomore class, Go Physics. And I help to coach cross country in the fall, girls cross country. And I also help coach swimming, which is one of our few co-ed sports in the winter. As Mrs. Hurt or Gretchen Hurt said, I am an advisor as well to 6 wonderful students at the school in all of the forms. And it's interesting because we've done a few of these open houses. And one thing I love about my job is every time someone asks me what I love about St. Andrews, I can think of a different answer because it's not one thing. There's so many things that I love about this school. And this morning, the thing that I'm feeling and the thing that I want to say that I love about the school is the energy that the students bring and the energy that the faculty bring and sort of the experience that creates in this fully residential community. So specifically, there are 3 words that I think of when I think of the sort of energy at the school. And those words are curiosity, enthusiasm, and drive. So everyone works hard. Everyone works hard in an enthusiastic way, in a way that doesn't make things seem burdensome. Everyone's excited to be here. And everyone's curious. Everyone asks questions. We had a guest speaker from the New York Times come and speak at our school last night. And after this person spoke, the students asked questions that were so sharp, so witty, and so relevant to the dialogue that I was just blown away. And I just continue to be impressed. Even after having worked here for 5 years, I continue to be impressed by the energy that the students and faculty bring each and every day.
Awesome. So hi, everyone. I'm Sonal. I am also a senior here at St. Andrews. I'm from New Jersey, but I'm originally from New Delhi, India. And something that I love the most about St. Andrews, going off of a lot of my other seniors here and the faculty, it's the school culture. And what I love about the school culture here is that, first off, we do have that academic drive. We're all here because we love learning. We love to learn, and we love to learn different things. Some of us might be more passionate in humanities, others in STEM, some in the arts. And we're definitely coming to this place with different interests and different backgrounds. But when we come here, what unites us, the first thing that unites us is our love for learning. And the second thing is our love for each other. And for me, from day one, from the first time I even toured here in person, I just fell in love with the community because everyone here has that passion for what they want to do, what they want to study, and how they want to give back to the community, both in St. Andrews and in the world. So that was a big check mark for me the first time I visited. And ever since, I've just been loving this community all the time.
Thanks so much, everyone. We're going to have the opportunity to hear from all of our panelists about different aspects of life at St. Andrews. And after that point in time, we will open it up to Q&A. So again, just please feel free to add those into the chat as we go along. So Mrs. Hurt, I think you are up first.
Great. Mrs. Daly asked me to talk a little bit about the academic program, and I'm aware everyone can also read, a lot online about our philosophy and our course offerings and requirements and things like that. So I thought I would use today just to give you maybe some of the what's not in writing, some of the things about our academic program that I think really continue to inspire that love of learning that you're hearing the students talk about here. One of our goals really is for our academic work to feel authentic and for students to immerse deeply in each field and each discipline. And the ways that plays out in the classroom, I think, just achieves that sense of connection and involvement in what we're learning. So some of the experiences I think that are high points for our students are those moments where they are doing the work of the scholar in the field. I'm thinking of projects like the Curiosity Quest in biology, that's that very first year here, where students are really working on the art of raising questions and being curious. It's a really well-named project, actually, from some of the themes you're hearing from us today. We also have projects like exhibitions where students are sharing their arguments and self-critiquing and pushing one another in rigorous conversation following a written piece. And that looks like maybe 2 or 3 students in a room with the teacher, having an engaging and collaborative discussion about a piece of academic work. We build toward the senior exhibition in the senior year where students engage independently with a text, and then that exhibition looks like 1 student and 2 faculty members for 40 minutes in a really incredible, rigorous discussion that is inevitably a discussion that contains many discoveries and light bulb moments. And you can just see that shared excitement for learning with the teachers and the student in that moment. I guess I would also like to just share about how being in the St. Andrews community and campus actually feeds into this immersive learning experience. We have a schedule that prioritizes deep, sustained work in each course. So there are 4 75-minute blocks where you are, doing Spanish for 75 minutes. Your brain is in the language and in the world. Similarly, then you move to maybe your arts course and you're doing studio work for that full sustained time. And so we really have an environment that facilitates immersion and depth. That's what we're really going for in our learning. And then I think we also have other structures like study halls, and the fact that we're one big academic community where you'll find students working at the dining hall tables, you'll find students working in empty classrooms, in the library. Sort of our spaces around campus are conducive to that sort of that ongoing learning and collaboration too. And then the last thing I think you should know is the way that our relationships around campus actually promote and deepen our learning as well. So we see academic work as a collective and collaborative experience. We see our role here as not only about learning for ourselves and advancing our own understanding, but part of our job as scholars at St. Andrews would be to advance the understanding of our peers, right? Is to make the conversation better for everyone around the table, or to help our group in our math class arrive at new insights together. So we're a school that really capitalizes on the close relationships we have to create a learning environment that is exciting, that is supportive. It's rigorous and challenging, but not in a competitive way. It's rigorous and challenging, I think, in a more communal and exciting and supportive way. So that's all I'll say. And maybe some of the Q&A later on will give me a chance to talk about specifics that you might be wondering about. Thanks.
And I think Finn is up next.
Great. So I'll be talking about the extracurricular opportunities at St. Andrews. So first I'll talk about athletics. I said earlier that I was a captain of the football team. I also do shot put in the winter, and I am a lacrosse player. But something really special about St. Andrews is we are a really small school. So students are asked to step up in athletic teams in many different ways. Something that was very new to me was, as a freshman, I was able to have an impact on teams in ways that I hadn't imagined. I came from a typical school where there was almost a hierarchy where seniors and juniors were on varsity and the rest fell in line. But here, that's not the case. So it's really special being able to have an impact on something that you care about, and it really creates this tight knit and really close bond between teammates, because the players are really working for each other and want to have success together. And like Ms. Hurt said earlier, they're also backed by the whole student body. Just thinking back to the States for soccer, we did really pack vans every game and show up for each other. So that's something that's really special. And I've really loved my time as an athlete at St. Andrews. Another extracurricular opportunity is the service aspect of St. Andrews. We are really devoted to giving back in many different aspects. So on Wednesdays, I believe roughly 2/3 of the student body is a part of some form of community service, whether it be going to local elementary schools to mentor children who might not be receiving the necessary time, one-on-one time in class or at home, just to really give them that time and to show them that they are supported and that they have an extra person in their corner. Or if it's during adaptive athletics, when we help children with special needs learn how to do different sports or learn to swim. But we really want to show up for those in our greater community around Delaware. And then additionally, we also really try to give back to the homeless shelters around us, just supporting them, especially in the times of holidays, when others may not be as fortunate as we are. But yeah, service is a huge portion of who we are at St. Andrews, and we really do love to give back. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the arts portion of St. Andrews. We offer many different arts courses, whether it be visual arts or music or theater. We have several different courses, but it's encouraged that students take at least one art course just so they can get a feel for it. Some people go into arts and thrive and take as many as they can and end up being an art major, which is an opportunity for a senior to really focus on one thing that they've really enjoyed throughout their arts time. For me, I am an arts major, so I focus on charcoal drawing, collage, and then mixed media work. So it's a really great time. Usually arts classes are only semester-long courses, but as an art major, you're able to focus for a year long on your art study. So that's something that's really special about St. Andrews. And yeah, I feel like we're not only focused on just the typical academic side of school, but we really want to see our students thrive in that art side and know that's something that really special to some students. But yeah.
So one of my roles on campus is I'm a freshman RL, which is a residential leader. And so my job is to work with the freshmen who are just coming into high school for the first time, maybe a boarding school for the first time, and introduce them to the school culture and just kind of be there for them if they ever need any help, if they ever need to talk about anything, whether it's academics or missing home. And something that's really special, I think, is over time, you see the kids become more and more comfortable with each other and more a part of the school culture. They're on teams. They're making chapel talks, and you see them begin to grow and get rid of that like initial trepidation. Another unique thing about residential life at St. Andrews is that seniors do not have their own dorm. They're scattered over all sophomore, junior, and freshman dorms. And so that just kind of fosters, again, a relationship with kids that are outside of your form or outside of your grade, which I think is super special. I think coming into high school, I was always kind of nervous about like the stereotypical divides in classes. But here it's a very, very small school, and there's a very special community that's developed on that basis of inner grade, inner form relationships. And so we'll also work as RLs to create dorm functions so that individual forms can become close to one another. So we'll have serial functions, we'll have dodgeball, we'll have basketball, we'll have ultimate frisbee, anything you can think of, just to kind of get the kids to come together and spend some time with each other outside of class, decompress and just start, join together and make their way through St. Andrews and become closer as a form. Another important part of freshman year especially is study hall. So we do study hall in the dining hall from 8 until 9:45. And that's just, we do in the dining hall to develop the ability in students to sit there and study for a certain amount of time and limit distractions. And I've spoken to a lot of my friends, and this was one of the most crucial points of St. Andrews for them, because when they came in, they were easily distracted. They had trouble focusing, but I think sitting there in the dining hall, no distractions whatsoever, and you're able to develop a great work routine. My next order is SWAG. So SWAG is the Student Weekend Activity Group. Students are elected from each form, and they are their job is specifically to create activities on the weekends for students to take part in. So we have dances, we have movie nights, we have anything related to nature. I think Finn alluded to it in his favorite part of St. Andrews. We have a 2,200 acre campus. Obviously not all of that is school, but we try and take advantage of that as much as we can. So there are walks in the woods. There's open waterfront. You can take a canoe out, a paddleboard, go swimming with your friends. We also have food trips off campus. We'll have holiday themed activities. We have the fall festival. Today we have a gingerbread house competition. And so we try and give students opportunities to decompress and just have fun with one another on the weekends. And another part of that is closed weekends as well. So certain weekends throughout the year, students are not allowed to leave campus. And that's just mostly, again, to kind of encourage students to stay, to build those relationships with their friends and their peers and their teachers, and not allowing them to leave and go home. It's not a punishment, but it's just more to foster a type of culture at St. Andrews. And I think it works wonders. And then we also have chapel on Sunday at 11. That's a big part of our culture here. And I'll go into that in the day in the life. So my next order is a day in the life of a St. Andrews student. So I typically wake up at 8, jump in the shower, grab something to eat really quickly, and then from 8:30 until 3 or 3:30, depending on the day, you'll have classes. We have 4 75-minute blocks, and then we'll have sit-down lunch, which again is very unique to St. Andrews. There's always going to be 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 2 seniors, and 2 faculty members, and those table rotations will happen every 3 weeks or so. And this is just another great opportunity for students to meet and to talk, and to get to know each other. And for people who maybe you don't have the same classes with, or you don't see on the field every day for sports. So after 3:30, you'll have a little bit of a break. And then from 4 until 6, you'll have sports. Some teams get out at 5:30, depending on the day again. And then we'll have dinner from 5:30 to 7. And also during that time block from 6 to 8, that's your time for ensembles to meet. So jazz ensemble, orchestra, Knocks and Tones, which is a student a cappella group on campus. Affinity groups can meet, clubs can meet as well. And then study hall from 8 to 10. And as you get older, as a sophomore, you can study on dorm. A junior, you'll give them the opportunity to study off dorm as well as senior year. And then chapel on Wednesday as well. So chapel here, it does not require any specific religious practice. It's more of a time for the school to come together once again. Some people think it's their favorite time of the week. It's a time to decompress, sing hymns, say a prayer. And we'll have chapel talks every Wednesday from either people within our community, teachers, students, or people just outside of our community. We had the Bishop of Delaware come a few times. And it's just time to sit, listen, and collect your thoughts and be with the community once again. And I think one thing I like to think about the culture here, and just the day in the life, I'm sure it seems a little bit overwhelming, but I like to think it's busy in the best way. And as you go through St. Andrews, you'll given the opportunity to select your courses, to select the groups you're in. And so you really kind of make your own schedule. And even though you're busy, you're doing what you love every day. And so I'm extremely grateful to be busy. So I think that's one of my favorite parts of St. Andrews, again, is just constantly throughout the day doing what you love, and being able to study and be with friends, classmates, teammates, roommates all throughout the day. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Jake. I have been tasked to talk a little bit about the residential program at St. Andrews. I like to think that of course, we all wear many hats at this school, and we have many roles. But as Jake was describing with students, being able to sort of pick their courses as they progress throughout the years at school, different students and faculty get to sort of emphasize certain elements of school life that they really love. And the residential program at St. Andrews is something that I take very seriously, something that I'm very passionate about. And so I'm very excited to share what I think is special about the residential program at St. Andrews. So just from the 30,000-foot perspective, our role as third form dorm parents is to support students in an academic and residential setting as they transition to the school. As Jake described, and as I said previously, we do not expect students to arrive here perfect. They are often very nervous. They are leaving home. It's a huge deal for the family. It's a huge deal for the student. They're going to be living with roommates for the first time. There's a lot going on. There's going to be a rigorous academic calendar that they're going to be facing. And so there's a lot of emotions that go into that. And so one thing that we try to do here at St. Andrews is balance that transition and the rigor and the challenges that the students will be facing, also with a very wide and explicit network of support. And so part of what I wanted to talk about is what that network of support looks like for students. And so in terms of the network of support, each student is surrounded by a bunch of seniors. They are surrounded by their dorm parents. They're surrounded by their dorm faculty. Each student has an advisor. Each student has an academic advisor that focuses on their academic transition. They have a form dean that focuses on the culture of that form. As Jake was alluding to, each form sort of develops a unique and distinct culture. They have their coaches that they see every afternoon for 2 hours. And of course, the teachers that they see every day during classes. And so one thing that I love about dorm life is that we simultaneously provide a structure where students can thrive in the academic lane at the school, because the academic element is rigorous, but the structure that we provide, that study hall from 8 to 9:45, is something that is really important for the students to be able to have enough time to be able to complete their homework and feel like they're prepared for those unique and authentic discussions or projects or assessments or exams that they're going to be facing the next day in class. And so one thing that we think about in the residential aspect is just making sure that students know that they have that support, making sure that they know that they have that structure. And we also want to make sure that they know how to sort of navigate what it's like to live in a community in a residential setting. And so what does it look like to establish healthy roommate relationships? What does it look like to learn about the culture of the school in moments small and large? And what does it look like to take ownership of their own space, both within their rooms and within common spaces? And interestingly, what does it look like, and importantly, what does it look like to create that subculture on dorm? One thing that I love about St. Andrews is that we have the St. Andrews culture, and then there are hundreds of subcultures that exist at the school. And dorm life is certainly one area of subculture where students can make this place feel not just like a school, but as a second home. And so how can we make the residential aspect of the school feel like home for the students, where they can be their full and authentic selves, where they can create healthy friendships that are going to last a lifetime, where they can learn how to sort of take responsibility for their actions and make certain sacrifices that are necessary when you transition from living on your own to living in a community with others in a residential setting. And so one thing that we try to do as well is really shift students' mindsets from what it looks like to focus on the individual to what it looks like to focus on living in a community and thinking about the whole and everyone else's needs and trying to be mindful of that. And so there are a lot of things that are going on in the residential program. We're trying to provide that structure for students so that they can thrive in a rigorous academic setting. We're also trying to identify areas of growth for students, both personally from a character perspective, but also sometimes from an academic perspective, and trying to constantly communicate to the network of support, web that exists. And we're also trying to foster deep and authentic relationships with the students, where they're going to learn how to live in community with one another in ways that will make them especially prepared for college and beyond. And so that's essentially some of the main components. And one thing that I'll end with that I love so much is this is a small school, and every single night there is, as Jake alluded to, a faculty and a senior that work together on duty with the students. and they are there to sort of make sure that the students are focused on task, that they have a plan of action for their study hall time. And so we're not there to monitor them. We're not there to sort of in any sort of punitive way. We're actually there to make sure that they are learning the essential skills that it takes to sort of find success in what we like to think of as a rigorous academic environment, and also to make this place feel like home for them, which is really important as students spend most of the year at the school.
Awesome. So now we can start transitioning a little bit more towards some other clubs and activities. So in terms of some of the clubs, we do have some that are extensions to the academics in the community. Like, for example, we have the math club, we have, and like we'll have like the robotics club, the computer science club. So you can take some of these courses in your schedule if you would like, or you can also be a part of this club. No prior experience is necessary. You know, you can come in with having a lot of math experience or having very little math experience. And it really comes together as a fun space to just appreciate math, or you can, or appreciate robotics. You can sit down and build a robot, you can code a program and things like that. Then we also have some that are on a little bit more on the competitive side. Like we have the math team that competes in local math competitions. And then we also have Model UN, which will focus a lot on politics and diplomacy. We do regional conferences. We've been doing it virtual for the past 2 years with COVID, but then we also do our best to attend NAMON, which is the international conference that happens in February. So that's sort of the academic side of clubs. But then, of course, we definitely have a lot more interest. The Cheese Club just got referenced. These are a lot more of the fun clubs that you can have a good time with. There's also the Polar Bear Plunge, which is a group of students and faculty who I like to call them the daredevils. Regardless of temperature, once a month at 7:45 a.m., they're going to dive right into the pond. I really look up to them. I don't think I will ever do that even before I graduate, but I will be cheering them on. And there's a lot of fun clubs like that happening. We also have like a film club where students like to sit down, watch movies, critique them, talk about their interest in film. We have like a fashion club where students can sort of pursue interest in that. What I really love about St. Andrews is that you can come in first day, and if you don't see a club here, you can start a club. We have, some of the clubs that are a lot more like engaging with the community. They have a bit more of a complex process, but nothing too hard. I mean, we can work with our faculty. We get faculty moderators supporting us all the time. And other clubs like the Cheese Club, we have Dr. Shrem. He teaches French, and he is rather a cheese enthusiast, and he helped establish this club this year. So there's things like that. In terms of activities, I know Finn talked really well about community service. That's one of the huge activities here. It's never mandated on this campus, but so many people participate in community service, and I think it just highlights our love for one another and for the community. There's also activities in STEM. There's activities in humanities outside. For example, there's the science lecture competition where juniors and seniors can present topics of their interest outside the classroom, so you can partake in things like that. You can do things like forestry, which is an activity that was actually brought back this year, where students actually get to explore nature and really be a part of that as an afternoon activity. You can have things like mock trial happening in the winters, and you can join the play. You could take musical theater as a class. You can join the musical, and all of these opportunities are open to you from your very first day on campus. And that's what I really love about St. Andrews, in that you can try anything you want and feel comfortable doing so, knowing that you have a community of 315 students and a faculty body always there to support you. So going off of that, we're going to transition a little bit more onto school culture. I'm just going to dive into a couple things really quickly about school culture. A lot of you might have heard about the phone policy, and we can start to clarify that just right now. The phone policy, in our understanding as seniors and faculty, it is quite simple. Don't take your phone outside of your room. Your phone stays in your room, unless of course you need to call parents, or you're going out to town, or you're going on a trip kind of thing. Then you take your phone, or if you're going into a hike or a run in the woods or to the gym. Otherwise, your phone stay in your room. That means during the academic day. That means on the weekends when we're out on the front lawn hanging out, or when tonight we're going to be making gingerbread houses, which I'm frankly very excited about. We are not going to be bringing our phones out. And the biggest reason is, frankly, well, one, phones are a distraction, and not just in academics, but in our social relationships too. Especially in a world like today, we all do have digital footprints. We have a presence on the internet, but I think at St. Andrews, we can sort of step away from that and really foster these true connections without being glued to our screens. When we hang out on Saturday nights and, there's going to be movies, there's going to be gingerbread houses, you'll see students sitting in classrooms with all their friends, just catching up on the week and, getting excited for what they're doing for winter break. They're not going to be on their phones. And I really appreciate that because we then are able to foster these true connections. The cell phone policy also ends up being rather strict, and it feels a lot strict when you come in as a new student, but that's where the seniors and faculty come in. We really try to help, make sure that the phone policy and the phone rules stay intact, in that if you are seen with your phone outside, then it would get taken away. But again, not less as a punishment, more as an understanding of, we want you to be present on this campus and not digitally present. After that, we can talk a little bit more about the kindness aspect of St. Andrews. Like Jake talked about, all seniors live on dorms across the other 3 forms. And what I really appreciate about that is it's not like the seniors are in charge, or they're like, if we're on duty, that we're not patrolling, but rather we're just there as mentors because we've gone through it. We've come here as freshmen or new sophomores or new juniors, and we have the St. Andrews experience, and we haven't completed it fully, but we're in that process too. So it's so nice to, I live on freshman dorm, I live on Pell, and I get to, talk to the freshman girls and hear about their experiences, and somehow also relive my own of what life was like when I was a freshman. And if they ask me questions, then I can try to answer, and then I can get to know them. And I really realized that speaks to the kindness of this community. There's no divide between the grades. We all hang out together. You will be friends with multiple people across grades. You'll share classes with multiple people, like in math or in sciences. On sports teams, like Finn said, you might be on a varsity team with freshmen or with seniors. Like, you can get to know all 4 grades, and it really speaks to the kindness that they all foster for each other. Another thing that we can talk about really quickly is traditions. As you all know, our campus is very well known for some of our traditions. We have the opening square dance, where you come in as a freshman. Frankly, no one on this campus really knows how to square dance, so we'll settle that claim right now. But everyone gets out on the front lawn, weather permitting, and we have a square dance, getting to know all the new students, and all 315 of us are going to be out on the front lawn having a good time. Just on Tuesday, we're going to have the carol shout, where it's exactly what it is. We're going to scream and shout carols to our heart's content. The next day we go on winter break, and trust me, everyone's going to have lost their voice by then because of the amount of screaming that we did the night before. We will also have a bunch of other traditions like open mic nights, where it's exactly that. We're going to have a mic set up, we're going to have musical instruments and everything, and we'll have a bit of a set list, but students can come up and feel free to play any song or sing any song to the whole community as they feel comfortable. So there's a bunch of traditions like that that really bring us together, even on the weekends or even during the school year. And now we're going to transition to my final point, which is about diversity. So at St. Andrews, we have a huge focus on diversity, specifically in our DEIJ initiative, which stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice. What I really love about the diversity here at St. Andrews is that, it's our goal. We are really actively working towards diversity, in all the factors. We're diverse in our academics, we're diverse in our athletics, but we're also diverse in our backgrounds and where we all come from. Like Mr. Sanchez said, we all come from all walks of life. We all come from different places across the country and across the world. And through the DEIJ initiative at St. Andrews, we fostered affinity groups. And affinity groups are great spaces for students to connect with other students who might share an aspect of their identity, whether that be race, whether that be ethnicity, sex, gender, you get the idea. And these are really safe spaces within the community as well. While the entire community is a safe space, you can also foster a smaller community within where you can share aspects of your identity. I am currently the co-head of the South Asian Affinity Group. So I grew up half of my time in India. So it's really great connecting with other students from the South Asian continent, whether their families are from there, their origins, or they're frankly international students coming in from South Asia. It's really great to be able to connect with them. And then similarly, we have groups like the Asian Student Union, which combines students from the entire Asian continent. Even though South Asian, we have our own affinity group, we come together in the student union and really are able to talk about what's happening in this country towards Asian hate, for example, but we can also talk about how we can come together and make a difference about it. So the affinity groups offer both a safe space where we can talk about what we can do better in a community at St. Andrews and beyond, but it's also a really fun space to just get to know more people that might share something just like you.
Thank you so much, everyone. a lot of really great perspectives offered and shared about different aspects of life at St. Andrews. And we have a lot of questions in the chat. And so I'd love to be able to jump into those and see how we might be able to speak to some of those and answer those questions. So I'll do a little bit of moderating at this point in time. And I think maybe one of the big questions that I'll start with is talking about athletics. And it sounds as if things are fairly inclusive. Is that true of sports? Can students be on teams if they aren't already skilled in the sport? And I don't know if one of our students would like to address that, perhaps.
I can talk about that. Yeah, so you can come into a sport having zero experience. I've heard stories of people who have come in to have no experience and have gone all the way up to have all state honors, which is one of the highest honors in the state, recognized as one of the top players in the respective sport. So we really have a community that really supports each other no matter what, where we start off, but really just we support each other in growing and in athletics and in every aspect really. But yeah, it doesn't really matter where you start. Depending on how many different people go out for a certain team, that depends on how many teams we might have, just so that all players are getting the game time experience equally. So we'll have, if for example, we have a lot of boys basketball players. So we have 3 teams. We have a varsity team, a JV team, and a thirds team, just so that everyone is equally getting the experience of having game time and playing time, and so they can improve their skills and hopefully move on to the next level as they grow older. But yeah.
Thank you, Phineas. I appreciate that. We have a question a little bit about what our teaching style is, and a question about whether that might be Harkness. I don't know if Mrs. Hurd, if you'd like to tackle that.
Sure. I think the word Harkness often refers to sort of around a very large wooden table discussion style class. And we do a lot of seminar style discussions where the teacher is guiding and shaping discussion, but students are very much also creating the lines of inquiry, are talking back and forth to one another. And so it feels a really good seminar discussion, feels like a conversation. So a lot of especially our humanities classes, make use of that teaching methodology. We really, we have so many different kinds of methodologies going on in our classrooms. Another thing you'll see at St. Andrews is a problem-solving approach in math, where students are working problems together. They're writing on, we have these incredible glass walls that you can actually write on with special markers. And they're moving around the room, they're using whiteboards, and they're presenting problems. We have, of course, classes doing laboratories and hands-on work there in the sciences. We have lots of classes doing projects, like in the languages, we're doing presentations, making videos, writing poems in the target language, and you'll see a lot of creativity. We also have moments where it's teacher-led and maybe a mini lecture on a component that it's important that direct instruction is used. So I hope that answers the question. We really want to reach students with a variety of teaching methodologies.
Mrs. Daly, could I build off of that just a little bit?
You are welcome to build off of that, Mr. Sanchez.
So one thing that I love about St. Andrews is this idea that we actually as teachers approach teaching the different forms with sometimes different pedagogical approaches. So as someone who works really closely with the third form, we actually think really intentionally about how we can optimize their growth, how we can scaffold the lessons, and how we can use a mixture of direct instruction, dialogue, and different methods of teaching, whether it's differentiation or small group problem solving, or independent work, and trying to think about what the best combination might look like, both depending on the student body, but also the individual teacher themselves. And so the teachers have a lot of autonomy at this school to be able to determine what would work best for them. And also, we approach teaching the different forms differently. So I used to teach the third form algebra class, and it was very problem-solving based, very abstract, and then there would be moments of direct instruction. And as now I teach sophomores in physics, and it's a little bit more direct instruction and a little bit less scaffolded. And I think the trend that you might see in science and math courses at St. Andrews is as the students get older and develop a really strong foundation in problem solving and analytical reasoning, classes shift from a lot of small group problem solving, a lot of discussion, to really intense, challenging problems that might take 75 minutes to solve one problem. And so there is this really huge transition for students in terms of starting them off with very scaffolded lessons and then shifting towards what it might look like for students to learn in college, where things are much less scaffolded, are much more open-ended, so that we are simultaneously challenging the students in each moment, but also preparing them for where they are going in the very near future.
We also have a question related to service and asking whether there are any opportunities for volunteering and what that might look like. So I don't know if any of our students would like to talk about that and perhaps things that they may have been involved with here at St. Andrews.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about it. So there are a bunch of community service opportunities on this campus. Actually, on Wednesdays, we have something called Long Lunch, where from 11:05 to 12:45, we have this full block allotted for different forms of community service. We offer things like adaptive athletics, where we go out into the Middletown community, to Middletown High School specifically, and support students with special needs in their athletic endeavors. And then we also have things like mentoring that Finn talked about, where students in local elementary and middle schools are paired with high school, like with St. Andrews students who could just use a little bit more support, who could use just like a little bit more one-on-one time. So that is a great experience to be a part of. In a non-COVID scene, specifically where it's more safe to do so, we have trips to the senior center in Middletown, where students can engage with some of the seniors of like some of the senior members of our community outside of the school. So it's a really great space to just get to know people and really, give them some fresh faces and fresh perspective to talk to and, really engage with. Again, in a non-COVID scene, we had something called adaptive athletics, which was very similar to, adaptive aquatics, which was very similar to adaptive athletics, but it used to happen on campus. But then just for the safety of everyone within and outside the community as well, that had to transition to adaptive athletics this year. And then also we have just a bunch of other things like we have organic gardening, which is more of like an environmental focus. Forestry can count as well. We used to have adaptive dance, which has shifted to a virtual perspective this year as well, where we're supporting students who would like to be dancers one day, or just want to get moving a little bit, feel comfortable on stage and things like that. So those are all really rewarding and really fun experiences to be a part of. And then on campus as well, we have endeavors like math and science help, which is more of just like a in-school community service opportunity where students can offer academic support to their peers, to younger students, especially like Mr. Sanchez said, for third formers coming in or for new students coming in, this transition, even the academics can be a little challenging. So while they have the full faculty body ready to support them, they also have a bunch of peers that can do math help, science help. We have religion TAs for sophomores taking history of religious thought. So we have teaching assistants in that class for all sections. We'll have different TAs for different higher level classes. So for juniors and seniors, some of the classes we take can be very challenging. And sometimes some students have taken them or have experience, so they end up being extra teaching assistants as well. So we have a lot of academic support in that sense as well. So community service can happen both on campus and off campus.
Yeah. And I think COVID certainly has had, for many ways, we've had to think a little differently about that. In the past, our students might have gone to local food kitchens and, different homeless shelters. Much of that work is now taking place on campus in terms of preparing meals that are then brought to those organizations. But it certainly is something I think that is a huge part of life here at St. Andrews. There was a question about balance in life here, both in terms of how do you balance sort of academics and activities, and then also thinking about how that balances into sort of homework load and sort of managing that homework. Students, would you mind addressing that? Sure, Jake.
So yeah, I think it's certainly may seem overwhelming, again, like the how busy you are, how much work you have, but I can assure you that with time and adjusting to the school and managing your time really well, that's something they stress here a lot. And there's a lot of outlets and support if you need help managing your time. There's also a lot of support if you need to talk to someone about how stressed out you are. Or just anything at all. We have, again, Finn's a peer counselor here, so you have seniors who you can go to every night of the week during study hall. You have your seniors on dorm who are, leaders within the community who you can go to. They've been here for 2, 3, 4 years, so they know their way around the campus. They know where they were classes. And you can also go to teachers or dorm faculty whenever you need to. But the system is set up, again, like we have pass-fail freshman first semester to kind of get kids adjusted. And so I believe like the thinking behind that is there's a little bit less stress on the freshmen coming in, and they can begin to balance their athletic, their social, and their academic life. And so then as you progress through, you find out how to manage your time. I think the only way to do so is just practice, and that just comes with waking up every day and trying your best, and that's all you can ask for. So no one's expecting you to come in as a perfect student, like Mr. Sanchez said. And so I think that's what boarding school is here for, is we're here to support you and to help you grow. So coming in, you have a lot of outlets, a lot of support. So please do not be afraid of what seems intimidating about boarding school, because I promise there's a lot of help if you need it.
Thanks, Jake.
Could I add on to that? I know as a school, we did a schedule study several years ago, and that was one of our community values driving some of the changes we made in the schedule, with not racing to as many different classes, but going in depth and fewer. And we have policies, like there's a homework policy we ask for teachers to abide by, to like keep it to a certain number of minutes per class. And we work to sort of help students help students with that balance. I guess the last thing I would say as an advisor, I feel the word balance is one of my most used words in my conversations with advisees, because we have kids here who want to do everything. They're really excited about every sport, activity, service, affinity group. And so a lot of times, just a little advising guidance on what choices to make, right? What are the priorities? And maybe you need a Saturday to just rest sometimes. So there's that advising and guidance coming from a lot of sources, whether it's your senior, your advisor, the teacher at your lunch table. We use that word a lot around here, and we're always trying to find the perfect balance. I don't know if we ever succeed, but we try.
Thank you. There was a question actually around, maybe I'll read it out loud just to make sure I get it right. SAS seems very inclusive, not trying to put us on the spot, but could you let us know how many leadership positions are held by girls? Student government, newspaper, co-ed clubs, swag, etc. And certainly, I think one thing to note is that there are a number of our leadership positions that are designated to be held by 2 individuals. Currently, that's structured in a way, one who identifies as a boy, the other one who identifies as a girl, are school co-presidents, heads of our honor committee and discipline committee. Typically, there are representatives in the class from both sides of that. But I don't know if anyone else would like to talk a little bit about what that looks and feels like. Maybe Sonal, as one of our lone female identifying student.
Yeah, so the leadership opportunities here begin from your freshman year on campus. The first year you arrive, we'll have form council, which elects roughly 6 students, 3 female identifying and 3 male identifying is the typical number. Then we also have swag elections for the student weekend activity group, and you'll have the student diversity committee, And each year the numbers vary, especially in the sort of organizations like SDC, where there's no restriction on gender, or there's no like, this is how many female identifying and this is how many male identifying students that we'd like. It's more just the form comes together, hears speeches, and then offers to elect certain students. What I really love about this campus is that you don't need a title, you don't need a position to be a leader on this campus. I think that every single senior in our senior class this year is a leader in different ways. You have Finn being the captain of the football team. You have Jake on the soccer team and an RL. I live on freshman dorm. I'm not an RL, but I still have a role. And what leadership really means on this campus is, how do you take responsibility and take initiative, taking care of, again, finding that balance of taking care of other people and, really giving back to community, but also taking care of yourself at the same time. So in terms of that aspect of leadership, what I'll say is that I'd argue that it's fairly balanced. In terms of the titles and those positions, I think we're fairly balanced between female identifying and male identifying students. But I also think that even outside of that, every single person on this campus is a leader, especially by the time they hit senior year. Some of us will get involved in initiatives even earlier on, but by senior year, everyone is involved in something. Everyone is trying their best to give back to the community and help bring in that new class, that next generation of St. Andrews. So in that sense, I'd say that leadership is quite balanced. And even in the academic sense, we'll have students that, like my roommate Tracy, for example, she's in charge of math help. So, she is really big in math and, she loves STEM, so she helps run that. I really like Model UN, for example, and I love diplomacy. So I'm one of the co-heads of that and of the affinity group. So we all end up, getting involved in these organizations and activities early on that ends up turning us into the next leaders to keep those activities going. So end of the day, everyone is a leader on this campus.
Thank you.
Mrs. Daly, could I just say one quick thing? The students at St. Andrews are so humble, okay? There's a level of humility that is wild. And so not only is Sonal a leader in other areas as she described, but she's also the winner of a very rigorous science lecture competition and gave an incredible talk on asteroid orbit determination based off summer research that she did. And so there are so many opportunities for students to feel empowered to try to do things that they might not do if they didn't feel that sort of support. And so it's just amazing. I know Mrs. Hurt talked about the art gallery yesterday. Just walking around the art gallery and seeing student names and their art pieces, and it's as if that only exists in their students don't just genuinely openly talk about all of these talents that they have. You almost have to go out and discover, like, oh, you do this, oh, you also do this. And so there's this amazing discovery process that faculty have at the school where you see someone who's doing something that's really incredible, and then all of a sudden they're singing, and then all of a sudden they're swimming, and then all of a sudden they're at the Model UN competition. And it's just like, what don't you do? And they're doing it because they're passionate about it, not because people are forcing them to do these things. They are buying into the process. And that's one of the very special things I think about the school.
Thank you. There was also a question, and I want to be mindful of time, so we'll probably answer just one or two more questions, and then I'll wrap it up very briefly. There was a question actually about, there are many questions and I'm trying to figure out what to do. It's to talk a little bit about the arts. So I had answered a couple of questions, but one is a chance to talk about how art is exhibited. I think we talked about the fact that we have an art gallery. Just last night, there was an art gallery opening. Every spring, we have actually a full weekend dedicated to the arts in all of its forms here at St. Andrews, in which our singing groups will perform, the Andrians and the Knocks and Tones, which is our a cappella group. Jazz band will perform, the orchestra will perform, we'll have individual instrumentalists who will perform, dance, we'll have a theater production, there will be gallery exhibitions, our annual literary magazine will be read. I mean, so it's just this incredible opportunity to sort of gather and center around the arts, I think, which is helpful. You can take dance as an arts class here at St. Andrews. You can take it as a sport afternoon in the falls. And then we also have a student organization called Saints Dance, which allows students to participate in a co-curricular opportunity. So there's just a lot of different opportunities for the arts to really thrive here, whether that's printmaking, we have music theory classes, we have drama, we have all sorts of different ways for students to be able to engage in the arts while they are here. There was a question that I'd love, for people to talk about in terms of the college process. In terms of how to think about the college process, how do we promote, students participating that in a healthy way without burnout or competition. And we have 3 seniors here who are all in the final stretch of, sort of embarking in that college application process. I don't know if any of you would like to talk about sort of just how St. Andrews talks about college applications in that way. Somebody can just hit unmute.
I was going to say super quickly, I think I was talking to a couple of my friends back home over Thanksgiving break, and they were talking about how competitive the college process is. But I think one thing that the college team and all the students strive for too is being reserved and almost quiet about your whole process and keeping it to a very personal matter. I think that just limits the amount of competition that there is. But obviously word travels and people find out. And I think that was one thing I was nervous about. And it's been shockingly very not competitive. Kids are very supportive about kids applying. A lot of situations happen where kids are applying to the same school, and there's still a sense of camaraderie and support, and there's no competition whatsoever. And then obviously as a junior, you'll get a college counselor and you'll work closely with them to find schools that, they think fit your needs and your wants, and where you're fit the best. And I think that's another thing that's special about St. Andrews is we're not so worried about names and titles of schools so much as we are about finding a school that fits the student perfectly. So yeah.
Thank you. Finn, if you have something you want to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something that I was curious about when I was coming into St. Andrews was how college and then the athletic side of being able to play at the next level, how those mesh together. Yeah, there are coaches help with recruiting, and if you are an athlete who is seeking to play at the next level, that is something that you can work with your coaches in addition to, like Jake said, your college counselor, so that that opportunity is available for you, so you're able to pursue, like Jake said, the things that you really enjoy and really want to do outside of St. Andrews.
Thank you. Maybe I'll do one last question and then try to wrap things up. And I apologize that we're running short on time, but again, I want to be mindful of our audience and the fact that you all probably have many, many things to be doing today. I'd love perhaps just to talk a little bit about how a question around extra support for students in terms of academics. Is there extra support for things like math, writing, math or a writing center? I think we talked a little bit about the peer tutoring options that are there, but would love to maybe if someone could talk about access to teachers and then also the learning center here at St. Andrews.
I'd love to start and maybe students can chime in with some details or things they've seen. And we have a director of academic support, Maggie Harris, who works with many students here on things from time management, organization of assignments, learning strategies. Many students have unique learning profiles that she works with students individually to make sure that they're maximizing their time with teachers and their time on their assignments. So she's, I think, the point person for a lot of the academic support that's happening that's more specialized, perhaps. And then I think we just have an approach of small classes, small school, teachers who know students well. So many of our teachers, we have office hours We make time to meet with students one-on-one, and you'll see a lot that happening in the random moments around campus, that our teachers are available for our students at all times. We live here, so it's easy for you to find us. That's where a lot of our learning support comes from. Mr. Sanchez also mentioned academic advisors who oversee the progress of a whole grade of students. And so they're looking closely for where students might need support and making sure they're on the radar with the Dean of Studies, with the advisors, so that we can plug students in. Maybe even if they don't realize they might need a little extra help, we want to match them up with that help. Maybe a couple of students, if you wanted to weigh in on things you've seen that along these lines.
I mean, for me, so yeah, like Miss Hurt said, at the beginning of the year, or every year for me has started with a meeting with the learning specialists, just to create a plan on what best fits my learning style. And it's really great because I'm able to sit down and really talk about how I learn and how I'm able to be supported. And that goes out to all of my teachers for the year so that they're all aware of the ways that I need support, or the way that I am likely to succeed, so that in every aspect I'm able to have the same support as any other student, and have the same chance of success as any other student, given any type of differences that we might have. But yeah.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask one more question because I do think it's an important one. And it's actually related to our school culture around things like bullying, drinking, substance use here on campus. And just would love maybe to get student perspectives and faculty perspectives about that. I think that this is a community in which we really, we've talked a lot about the value of kindness. I think it's something that every year we are talking about and thinking about, and then we never take for granted in the way that we care about each other, and in the way that we care about each other to be individuals. What I always say is that here at St. Andrews, my hope is that our students come and they have an ability to be fully themselves in all of the facets of what their interests are, their strengths, their growing areas, and that this is a place that really supports students in that. I don't think this is a place that bullying is tolerated. And in fact, more often than not, if that's starting to bubble up, it's our students who are the ones who are stepping forward to raise hands and say, actually, this isn't okay here. But I'd love it if students, maybe you could talk just a little bit about that really important question.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps one of the biggest reasons that seniors live on dorm with the other 3 grades. Seniors are really there because, this is a place where we fostered such a culture where we've established a safe space where we can truly be ourselves and feel comfortable, pursue our passions in our academics, in our extracurriculars, in our athletics, in our arts, and really, explore ourselves and get to know ourselves better as we prepare forward for college while strengthening our foundations. Anything like bullying or substance use or alcohol, these are aspects of the world that are truly going to halt our progress, and that frankly are a danger to that growing passion and that safe space of our community. So in terms of violations of that degree, then frankly, those are situations that, where the discipline committee and honor committee, which are, student-led initiatives with faculty advisors and the head of school, all that committee comes together and, we discuss the violation or the broken, the violation, or if the trust is broken, and we talk about means of growing from that. How can we be better as a community? How can we come together after this? But of course, we have that zero tolerance for alcohol, for substance use, and for bullying. And at that point, it's very simple. We've established a safe space and we're going to maintain that safe space. We promised our students, we promised each other as seniors, as juniors, as sophomores, as first years, and as faculty that we were going to be there for one another always, and we will be. So we're going to stand there with each other and make sure that if any of this arises, that we report it, that we come together to solve it, and that we heal from it too.
I would just build off that by saying, if I had to give St. Andrews a grade, I would say 97% of what we do is coaching. 97% of what we do is proactive. And so what Sona was talking about the seniors sort of embracing the younger students, sort of helping them as stewards of the school, as St. Andrews experts, sort of helping the students, the younger students, understand why it's important to buy into this process, why it's important to buy into this mindset, this style of life. And so most of the time, as someone who works very closely and intimately in the residential program, most of the conversations that we're having with individuals or with groups are from a coaching perspective. So we're looking to help students learn from, in many instances, minor mistakes, minor issues that need to be addressed, but are not problematic in and of themselves. Of course, there are instances where things do get more serious. And as Sona alluded to, we do have a plan in those moments with student-led committees such as the Honor Discipline Committee and Dean of Students and things like that. But we try to minimize, we try to protect the students, and we try to minimize any chances of those instances happening by building a strong culture, by being proactive, and by having coaching conversations in smaller moments so that we can avoid the sort of slippery slope where all of a sudden, 8 weeks later, we've got a handful of larger issues, larger cultural issues on our hands. And so I think because of the network of support that we have in place with seniors, with dorm faculty, teachers, advisors, learning specialists, we really do try to create a space where there is disciplinary action, but most of the time we're trying to prevent those larger mistakes from happening by building that really strong culture and making sure students are buying into that culture.
Great, thank you. So at this point, I will try to do my best to follow up with questions that have been asked that we haven't had time to answer. I would just say there have been a number of questions around the application process and how many new students we welcome in each year. So here we are a student body of about 315 students. Normally we have about 68 new students who enter as what we call third formers or ninth graders. And usually we have students anywhere from about 10 to 15 new students who are into our fourth form or sophomore year, and anywhere between 4 and 9 new students as new juniors. And so the application process, admissions, we receive normally a number of applications each year. The acceptance rate is around 18% of accepted students. And typically we are looking for students who have done really, really well in their previous settings in terms of their academic profiles, but also in terms of who they are as members of their own school and local communities. We are test optional this year, and so students may or may not choose to submit SSAT or IC scores as part of their application. Our application deadline is January 15th, so it is fast approaching. If you've liked what you've heard today and you haven't yet been a part of an interview or a virtual tour process, we do have virtual tour opportunities 3 times a week, as well as the opportunity for a virtual interview appointment upcoming in the month of January. But thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and the great questions that you all have answered. We hope you all enjoy the rest of your Saturday and have best wishes for the rest of this year in 2021. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.